I hope your week is going well. I'm on here just to give some of my thoughts about what's going on with the Democratic National Convention this week, so on and so forth. There's still 2 more days of this. I have watched a lot of it, not all of it. I want to be clear. It's already clear who I'm voting for. I am not going to go back and forth with people about whether or not Kamala is black, not black. At this point, when people say I'm not going to just vote for her because she's black, I get it. I get it. And seeing that there's been plenty of black people put in front of us that we don't vote for, I'm not pressed to prove to anybody that black people just vote for people because they're black. Okay? They put many of people in front of us that have not been successful. Okay? Okay. Number two, granted, her mother is Indian, immigrant from India. Her mother is the one who raised her primarily. Her father was an inconsistent part of her life. He was Jamaican, and we all know, and if you don't know, certainly being African American, you know oftentimes how Caribbean immigrants behave toward African Americans as if they're better. They don't see themselves as black in the way we do, despite, once getting to America and realizing that they are not different. at least according to the police and the bank, in terms of giving loans. But never. So I can totally see people who give that kind of foundational understanding why they don't rock with it. Either way, I'm saying that we are in a state of emergency. Donald Trump is a disaster. He's a white supremacist. He's already laid the foundation for, if he loses, violence. Violence of white people, specifically against black people, especially in the South. That man who has done TikToks in Florida, and talked about people who have said things to him, and they said it to him so that he can get the word out. Even just Uber drivers saying they plan to unalive African Americans the day after the election if Donald Trump doesn't win. And I know those aren't idle threats. Everybody doesn't have to feel that way. You don't have to like Kamala, and maybe you don't, and that's why you don't vote for her. But I can't play these games like the voting doesn't matter. We all know the Electoral College is bullshit. It was only developed for the sake of maintaining slave power in the South in the event that they would have lost elections. That's why you have so many presidents from Virginia, despite having an impeccably high proportion of enslaved people and in comparison to white people. Anyway, all right. So the first night is DNC, and I'm just gonna go over some things that stood out to me. All these black people started coming out about 7 o'clock. I said, "Oh no, they putting us in early at the front because they don't want to hear from us no more." But that was, just me. Like I said, I'm just going to have some observations. Maxine Waters, Queen Maxine. I'm not crazy about the auntie bit, just because that has long associations with Aunt Jemima and other ways of degrading black women. I get what people mean within the black culture, but everybody watches our culture and then will feel comfortable kind of misrepresenting it. Anyway, so Maxine Waters, representative from California. I love Maxine Waters. She's up there with Sheila Jackson Lee for me. And I said, come on, green suit. Google it. She was sharp. They had Melanie Campbell and Derek Johnson, who's the president of the NAACP. They talked. I was like, I have to appreciate all this black music and more black people than usual walking out. But we all know how these Democratic National Conventions work and stuff like that. All right. They pander. That's what they do. But they gave a dedication video to Reverend Jesse Jackson for his 1984 and 1988 campaigns for presidency. In case you didn't know, many of the things that Barack Obama benefited from actually began with Shirley Chisholm. She was born in the U.S. but spent a lot of time back in Barbados and then came back to New York. But anyway, the things she pushed for in that 1972 election as the first black person to run for president of the United States, the things she pushed for are things that Barack Obama was able to push for in terms of delegates at the Democratic National Convention in 2008. Reverend Jesse Jackson also helped pave that way. And in case you were wondering, everybody didn't support, a lot of black people didn't support Al Sharpton when he ran for president in the 90s and early 2000s. Black people disproportionately supported Jesse Jackson. And he had a lot of support. He had the second most votes of anybody in running for those Democratic primaries. That's why people were upset that he was not asked to come on as vice president in 84 or in 88. And that could have actually turned the tide. And so a lot of black people, in frustration, they lost a lot of support in the Democratic Party. Yeah. So if you were a millennial like me, you knew Jesse Jackson, at least I did, as a preacher, as somebody who worked with Martin Luther King. But if you didn't have parents that taught you history, honestly, you probably learned a lot about Jesse Jackson from impressions on Comic View. We got to work on our social responsibility to the youth. Anyway, Jesse Jackson came out after a dedication video. I'm sure many of you know that he's suffering from Parkinson's disease, and Chicago is his home. They, came out, friends of his and his son wheeled him out as the founder of the Rainbow Push Coalition. Things like Operation Breadbasket, helping to feed people in Chicago, which actually began with Fred Hampton, Black Panther, who was killed before his time, obviously. And he was in charge of the Rainbow Coalition, Fred Hampton. And Jesse Jackson took the name and, did other things with it. They gave him thunderous applause. They didn't try to have him speak, which I thought was good. I felt like he deserved that kind of honor and respect. Jamie Harrison, the black man who's the chairman of the DNC, came out and did the votes for Kamala Harris's official nomination. The yays got it. All right. Hillary Clinton came out and spoke. Hillary Clinton came out with her woulda, coulda, shoulda speech. Let me tell you something. I am not impressed. And I love how black people in the comments was going off about how nice her hair looks and everything. I'm like, well, shit. It was no excuse for that shit to look bad in the first place. All the damn money and shit she's had and access to stylists. But she was, going on about Geraldine Ferrara. These are different white, women suffragists and all these sort of things. And the reason why I say woulda, coulda, shouldas is because the election that Hillary ran against Donald Trump was not the one that we voted for. People who are registered Democrats, because most people in most states, certainly in New York, in Georgia, in states across this country, you can't vote in the primaries if you're not registered as a Democrat or Republican. So you get to help choose your presidential nominees and things like that. But if you're registered as like an independent, you can't vote in the primaries. And that's really where you kind of push for who you want. Hillary Clinton was a senator for New York, actively at the time. She was running for president. Bernie Sanders beat her in New York. I mean, beat her, clear, in the primary. That election for the Democratic national nomination was stolen from Bernie Sanders. You can look it up. It is not hard to find. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was over the votes, and they kept giving Hillary Clinton all of this bullshit support at the DNC. Now, Bernie Sanders, was a good sport about it, I guess. I feel like he should have fought for it because that's not who the people wanted. So when Hillary Clinton, even though against, my desire, just like now, like, it probably seems like I've gone up for Kamala, and I have in many ways. Because I understand that people still see her as a black woman and they're attacking her because they're attacking us. And I'm a grown woman enough to understand that. I am not a sycophant. I am not an ideologue. Okay. I am not dumb. Okay. I do not think she is anybody's messiah or savior. We saw with Barack, that shit ain't gonna happen. But Hillary Clinton didn't win that. So I don't feel for Hillary Clinton even comparing her run for presidency to that of Kamala's. Kamala has been vice president. You have not. You had a husband who was president. There are plenty of things that Bill Clinton did outside of Monica Lewinsky. And many women, like I'm telling you, if you want to look it up, The Clinton Affair, 4 episodes from A&E, you can stream it somewhere. But the different women who had accused him of sexually assaulting them as well. He is no angel. And using your husband sometimes and then other times, and the racist shit they did with Barack, the way they tried to. Let me tell you something. John McCain is not the one that started that Reverend Jeremiah Wright train. Oh, his pastors are racist. You know, all that bullshit white people say when black people say something about the racist conditions we live in. It was Hillary Clinton. She's also the same one that when her and Barack Obama were going up for the Democratic push in South Carolina, and he won it, going back, her response, well, Jesse Jackson won South Carolina too. What did I just tell y'all about Jesse Jackson? How he didn't win the nomination, right? She didn't compare Barack Obama to any other Democrat in the history of Democrats. This was, well, that Negro won that one too, and he still didn't win. The racist shit she's done, I'm not here for it. I mean, the super predator stuff, white women say all that crazy stuff anyway. Like, I'm talking about real institutional shit they tried. This, when Bill Clinton was saying to Ted Kennedy, you know, if it wasn't that this person, and we know this may have been Ted Kennedy's nice version, this person would have been serving us coffee 5 years ago, or however many years ago. That's what they thought of Barack Obama when he was trying to get Ted Kennedy, and Ted Kennedy from the Kennedy family, not the one in Louisiana. That's what they thought about him when Hillary was trying to get the nomination even before then. So I just want y'all to be aware of that. Okay, Joe Biden talk. I think we've heard enough. All right. I honestly think Dems kind of tore it up the first night because I really wasn't expecting all that energy. They did a good job with pivoting in terms of like actually structuring the DNC, seeing that nobody was really excited. We just know we're voting for our lives. All right. Now let me say this before I go on to last night. Democrats, Kamala, I don't give a shit how excited y'all are about Barack and Michelle, and we can say this ain't their job or whatever. Let me tell y'all something. What y'all not gonna do is play in my face. Them people are out there protesting to free Palestine. They have every right to do it. The number of police, not just around the DNC, because anytime you've had former presidents, there's a level of security that just goes with it. I'm talking about the rows and rows and rows of police in Chicago, outside of the convention center, where people are saying free Palestine, and they are right, the United States should not be supplying them with arms. All this Israel has the right to defend itself. Sure. What the fuck they got to do with us? We don't have to be in that. And that's a genocide. And y'all have blood on y'all's hands. Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden. So don't play in my fucking face with this shit. Y'all got to answer for that. And somebody ain't brought it up in their speech from the big kahunas. Anyway, y'all ain't gonna talk to me like I'm stupid. See, that's the difference between me and like the Trump people. I ain't gonna pretend like I don't see shit that's wrong with this fucking country. Okay, anyway, the band hired by the DNC was fire with the black people and their saxophones and stuff. I think there was a lot of energy because honestly, I just think an energy shift has happened. And sometimes life happens like that. Energy shift is happening really because we have a president that can walk. We have a potential presidential, what am I trying to say? We have a candidate for the presidency that can actually walk at a very appropriate pace, who can talk at an engaging pace, and we did not have that in Joe Biden. We were worried if he just could walk, sit, stand, is he gonna be all right by himself? I think that has a lot to do with the energy shift. But shit, at least we have an alternative, something like one. You know what I mean? So now I like the live band for the most part, but I was not here for that white man. I don't know if he's white. He does not seem anything else. A blue suited DJ, cosplaying hip hop artists, how they would dress on awards night. Not here for it. I don't care who's hired him in the past. I don't care if he's friends of the biggest black artist in the world. I don't care. Miss me. All right. So they did the roll call. So I'm going somewhere with this roll call of each state. All right. Georgia, I'm very proud of Lil Jon. Shout out to the A. Okay. They did the roll call and Georgia won. Georgia won. They took it. They won. All right. Now they did delegate roll call for New York. And I don't rock with Jay-Z. I really don't. I never was into his music like that. I just wasn't. Even after he married Beyonce, I didn't try to make myself like him. Like if the Renaissance tour would have included Jay-Z, I probably would not have gone. Anyway, Jay-Z and Alicia Keys, though, Empire, that's a good song. All right, or New York, whatever they call it. All right, so anyway, they get to the roll call, and that's like when you have your state, and they claim, okay, we have X number of delegates, 100 and so-and-so, all going to Kamala Harris. Spike Lee is there, whatever. Then they hand the mic to our racist ass first female governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, okay? Who pulled the Hillary Clinton shit. And I couldn't wait to talk about this. First of all, I don't like this bitch. This is the same one who got on stage and said, you know, for black kids, not that black and brown shit, not the African Americans and Latinx community, because the antithesis of whiteness is blackness because white people created it like that. Black kids in the Bronx don't even know what a computer is. Fuck you forever and evermore, okay? She gets up there, because people get the background of their state in the sense of like, yeah, the home of so-and-so. So here she goes, saying this is the home of the Seneca Falls movement, all right? Seneca Falls, 1848, some very rich white women got together and said, we should have the right to vote, wrote a whole declaration of sentiments. They basically took the Declaration of Independence and included the word woman, so on and so forth. All right, so she put the Seneca Falls movement, the home of the Stonewall movement, and some other environmental justice movement. And then she said the birthplace of Shirley Chisholm. And while I appreciate Shirley Chisholm's contributions, please note, and as somebody who's read her autobiography, Unbought and Unbossed, white women call on the name of Shirley Chisholm, not black women, but on the name of Shirley Chisholm in particular, because of her quote that, and I'm paraphrasing, she always said something to the effect of, I endured more discrimination for being a woman than I ever did as a black person. Once again, her family was from Barbados. She grew up in Barbados primarily, but she was born in New York and then comes back. And that kind of thing that typically affects African American, from understanding offensive looks, offensive tones of voices that we know don't happen to everybody else, but we experience it constantly. And Caribbean immigrants often miss the boat, no pun intended, but they either, one, don't identify as black. So I can understand, once again, people that are saying, well, you know, essentially Kamala is not black in the same way we are because she had a Jamaican father. Because those Caribbean immigrants do not identify with African Americans. All right? But they call on her simply because of that. White women will abuse that. And even like when Hillary Clinton was giving her speech, but this is how you know they see and feel and think of Kamala as a black woman. Okay? This is still part of the game though. That's what, when I said earlier, I'm a grown woman enough to know what the fuck the deal is. They do this kind of shit to go around saying anything about black people. That white bitch, Kathy Hochul, did not acknowledge anything dealing specifically with African American people. Okay? Descendants of slaves. That bitch didn't acknowledge I'm getting mad. All right. Her first order of business, because she said that about black kids in the Bronx not knowing what the fuck a computer is, especially after COVID, you dumb broad, should have been to cover up that fucking faux pas, that racist faux pas that was obvious. It should have never made it out of her mouth. It was the women's movement, because the women's movement, the hidden adjective before that is white. Stonewall, because it's about gay people, right? Not black people. Environmental, anything that doesn't include black people. That's what white people do. The same roll call Hillary Clinton made in her speech, trying to act like if it wasn't for white women, Kamala wouldn't be where she is. Anyway, all right? She should have fixed her fucking mouth, Kathy Hochul of New York, all right? Acknowledging all the movements in African American history that just alone happened in the state of New York. Take your pick. The Niagara movement, okay, about ensuring the rights of African Americans, led by none other than W.E.B. Du Bois, the first African American to ever get a PhD from Harvard, and he got it in history. That led to the founding of the NAACP, or better yet, the Harlem Renaissance, okay? Or the movement for a Harlem congressional district in New York during the 1930s and 1940s that led to Adam Clayton Powell Jr.'s election, who was pastor of Abyssinian Baptist Church for decades. And he also became the first black congressman from New York. Or even all the black parents who fought to properly integrate black kids in New York schools in the 50s through the 70s, because New York is still a very segregated place, and fought to have African American history as part of the curriculum. She skipped over anything black, and that shit really, because see, other people will say, well, like, well, what's the big deal? There's gay people in the black movement, and, you know, then fucking say that. Black is like a bad word. All right, you raggedy bitch. That shit pissed me off. Michelle Obama gave, you know, a pretty good speech. She did her job, you know, as a former first lady. You know, and she was talking about her and Barack being highly educated, very successful people who happen to be black. And, you know, white people was tripping out. Like, how can they acknowledge their blackness? They should be you know, Michelle did what we would expect her to do. Barack Obama, you know, don't boo, vote. But no, he had to go in on Tim Wall's plaid shirts like that. But that shit was funny. You know, and he was making good points. Another one up. They did not bring up Palestine. Now, granted, this is Tim Wall's and Kamala Harris's shit to fix at this point. But Democratic National Convention, y'all not gonna play in our face. I'll probably come back and talk about Kamala's speech if there's something to really talk about. But the bottom line is, you know, I mean, Barack Obama had to clean this up, because him and Michelle did not come out and support Kamala Harris when everybody should have gotten in line, because y'all knew Joe Biden, and you're the one, Barack Obama was the one calling other people to drop out when they were all clamoring for the Democratic nomination for presidency, with the Elizabeth Warrens and the Bernie Sanders calling people to drop out for Joe Biden as a favor to him. This is not hard. You can Google this stuff. This is not, I'm not making this up. So he's the reason for this shit. Okay? And then for him to then act that way when a black woman is being nominated after Michelle is recounting forms of trauma, essentially, that happened when they were the first, and for both of them to kind of be like, this needs to be an open process, and nobody's calling her, and then they make a show out of it with the speaker phone. It's clear they don't really fuck with Kamala like that. But my thing is, even if that is the case, we shouldn't know, and it shouldn't be that fucking obvious. And shame on y'all for knowing better. Because the bottom line is, Barack Obama, y'all ain't break y'all's neck to do. Now, I ain't gonna sit up here and say, now he is absolutely right that they called the Affordable Care Act now, but then they called it Obamacare to disparage him. And let me tell you something. I'm somebody who immediately felt the effects of Obamacare. Trust me, when I was in graduate school going to get my birth control, and it was costing me $25 a pack, and then that stuff passed through Congress, and it was $0, yeah, that makes all the difference in the world. That cuts off on sanitary napkins. That cuts off on a lot of the issues with imbalance for those of us who have incredibly heavy flows like myself. And I'm not ashamed to share that, because I think it's important. Because the only reason why people take birth control is not simply not to get pregnant. It's to control a lot of different kinds of pains that you may not normally be able to do or deal with. So I'm not on that train that he ain't do nothing for black people. Now, if he ain't want to admit he was black and all, I mean, we're not, you know, playing those little games and stuff. And we're not going to expect Kamala and them to do that either. But I also know Donald Trump running shit and the way he talk wild about black people. I don't know what the fuck y'all on. Like, I don't know who. I'd rather you say, I'm just going to sit this one out. Because, see, that would make sense to me. Because your vote is a form of power. Political power. And I'm not into this shaming black people. Oh, well, your ancestors died for the right to vote. They did, but they should not have had to. The 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment should have cleared that shit the fuck up. We were fighting for that shit until 1965. That's why I was so pissed with the Hillary Clinton and Kathy Hochul bullshit. Don't talk about, oh, women got the right to vote. No, y'all's asses got the right to vote. Black people were still getting lynched for that shit. Ain't bring up Sojourner Truth. Ain't bring up all them slaves that Harriet Tubman helped get over the Niagara River to get them into freedom, because they couldn't get it here. know what? Let me get off of here before I get mad all over again. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all soon. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll talk to y'all soon.